Hey everybody, welcome to tonight's episode of the University of Dungeons and Dragons, or as Mr. Bishop and I have come to love it, the UniversiD&D. As always, my name is Brandon Ross, and I am joined tonight by, of course, a good co-friend of mine, a fellow mentor instructor to this project, Knighted Bishop.
What's up, everybody? How you doing tonight?
Thank you again for being here, Bishop, with this endeavoring of teaching people how to play Dungeons and Dragons. And that's what this show is about, is we're going to do our best to continue to walk through the classes brought to you by the Player's Handbook. As we stated previously, everything we're doing for this initial kind of syllabus, this initial, quote unquote year of college through the UniversiD&D, everything we're doing is out of the Player's Handbook. We may give some advice out of other books and or just personal opinions, but essentially at its core, everything you're going to see in these videos and learn from this is going to be easily to just find via Google. I believe there's plenty of places where the Player's Handbook is actually free to read, so that's fantastic. Or it's probably pretty sure it's pretty cheap to pick up on the fly. Either way, we're going to dive into some announcements really quick. I'll make them very fast. Be on the lookout for some more upcoming projects via the social media that I have. My social media team is fantastic. They do a great job keeping on top of everything. If you're not following us on our social platforms, please feel free to do so. You can find those links just below us here if you're watching on Twitch. And if you don't have access to that, we will be putting those links into the chat so you can find them on your own time and join them. The biggest push I will have is please, please, please come check out the Discord. We'd love to have you there. We'd love to grow that community to as large and as amazing as it can be. Just be this community of people who love D&D, but also love other things, gaming in general, Pathfinder, previous editions of Dungeons & Dragons, or just having fun, sharing memes, and talking with friends. That's all we want to build, is just a someplace fun where you can come and de-stress and relax and have fun. I've said fun about 1,000 times, so we're going to move on to tonight's session.
But is it fun?
It is fun. And
That's all that matters.
Tonight's class in session. The bell has rung. Please take your seats. Tonight we'll be continuing our push through the classes. Probably the largest course we'll have, as we're splitting it up over so many classes. And tonight we'll be going over the Paladin, the Ranger, and the Rogue. So without further pause for that, let us move to our proper display screen, and there you can see the table for the Paladin. Bishop, did you want to kick off Paladin, or do you want me to handle this one?
No, you go ahead and handle the Paladin. I'll handle the Ranger if you don't mind.
No, absolutely. I always like to ask. I want to make sure that you are being wherever you want to be. So for Paladins, they're what you would call probably the first half-caster that we've come across, correct? Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are.
So the Paladin falls into a class known as a martial half-caster, which means they get benefits from the martial classes, such as extra attack, but they also get benefits from being a spell-casting class. So they kind of get a hybrid of these two things. They don't get a ton of multi-attacks down the line, and they don't get a ton of magic. As you can see on the table on screen, they only can learn up to 5th level spells without multi-classing. So if you just play straight Paladin, your highest spell casting ability will only be 5th level. Not to say you don't have some good versatility within those spells, but that is the highest tier of magic you'll have access to as a straight Paladin, no multi-classing. With that, I'm going to run down the table really quick just to give some terms out there. Then we'll move into the features and things you get for just saying, hey, I want to play a Paladin. Your proficiency bonuses will be in the left-hand corner as you usually see. The spell slot on the right-hand side. And to run through these terminologies real quick, you'll have Divine Sense, Lay on Hands. You'll get a Fighting Style. You'll get a unique ability called Divine Smite. Then at the 3rd level, you get your Sacred Oath, which is where you learn your subclasses, and something called Divine Health. And then you'll see your ability scores. There's the extra attack we're talking about at 5th level. And then Paladins have a unique feature also known as auras. And you'll learn how these work as we go on with the class. You'll see you get the ability score improvements. I would say probably above average amount of ability score improvements for Paladins. Bishop, agree with that? They're probably above
Yeah,
average. They're not below
they're
by
they're
any
still
means.
they're still definitely a martial class.
Yeah, definitely not as many as the fighter or feeder, as we learned about last week. You
No,
get
I don't think
other.
anybody deserves that
No,
many.
nobody gets that many except the straight fighter. And then we move on to more things that get more intrinsic to the Paladin class, such as the Cleansing Touch or Aura improvements. But again, I want to run out of that really fast, and we're going to push into the class features. What do you get for just saying, hey, I want to make a Paladin? All right. Well, as a Paladin, you have a 1d10 hit dice. So that's where you see that martial class coming into it. You have a huge hit pool to yourself as a Paladin. Following levels, as we've told you before, your Constitution modifier is the single most powerful stat and really the only stat to your health pool. So moving on, as you level up, you roll a 1d10, or you can take the average of 6 plus your Constitution modifier for health beyond the first level. You gain proficiency with all armor and shields. For weapons, you gain simple weapons and martial weapons, which I believe is just all weapons in general, essentially. Tools, you have none. You don't have any tool proficiencies as a level 1 base paladin. Saving throws are wisdom and charisma. You can choose 2 from the skills, being athletics, insight, intimidation, medicine, persuasion, and religion. Now, some of you may be asking yourself, why does a paladin have the option to get intimidation? Well, with some of the subclasses, they aren't exactly what you would call good. And almost any class in D&D can be played in any spectrum of alignment, from the most lawful of good to the most chaotic of evils. For equipment, you start with a martial weapon and a shield, or 2 martial weapons if you want to be that dual wielder with the 2 hammers or the 2 longswords. You can start with 5 javelins or any simple melee weapon. You have a priest's pack or an explorer's pack, and then chainmail and a holy symbol. Much like you saw with the cleric, a good portion of your spells can be cast through a holy weapon instead of needing the actual components. A terminology you'll see use this is either arcane focus or just a holy focus. Moving back up to your features more in depth of the paladin, you have the divine sense and lay on hands right at level 1. For divine sense, the presence of strong evil registers on your senses like a noxious odor. Powerful good rings like heavy music in your ears. As an action, you can open your awareness to detect such forces. Until the end of your next turn, you know the location of any celestial, fiend, or undead within 60 feet of you that is not behind total cover. You know the type, celestial, fiend, or undead, of any being whose presence you sense, but not its identity, such as the vampire Count Strahd von Zarvik, for instance. Within the same radius, you can also detect the presence of any place or object that has been consecrated or desecrated, as with the Hollow spell. You can use this feature a number of times equal to 1 plus your charisma modifier. When you finish a long rest, you regain all expended uses. Very strong ability here, especially because it does not denote that it can be in the open, but under the effects of an invisibility spell. So if you have, or you believe there's an invisible enemy of these classes here, celestial, fiend, or undead, within range, and you don't know where it is, you can use this divine sensibility to sense where that creature is. Now, again, you won't know who it is or any discerning features of it, aside from the fact that it is either a celestial, an undead, or a fiend. But again, very handy if you're just walking through, say, an enemy's lair, and the DM describes you walk into a large open room with no notable features. Okay, that seems like a trap. Let me use Divine Sense. Okay, suddenly you get no ping, 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 ping. You get 3 pings of invisible fiends within range of your party. Well, there you go. Moving on, you have your Lay on Hands feature. Your Blessed Touch can heal wounds. You have a pool of healing power that replenishes when you take a long rest. With that pool, you can restore a number of hit points equal to your Paladin level times 5. So pretty big, pretty much just healing pool here. Right at level 1, you have 5, which is easily half of your already level 1's abilities as a healer. So you can give some good healing already. Alternatively, you can expend 5 hit points from your pool of healing to cure the target of one disease or neutralize one poison affecting it. You can cure multiple diseases and neutralize multiple poisons with a single use of Lay on Hands, expending hit points separately for each one. The action economy to do this is an action, and you can touch the creature and draw from this power to restore a number of hit points to that creature up to the maximum amount remaining in your pool. So if you know you've just got off a short rest and you didn't quite get the healing you needed, well, I only need 2 more hit points to be topped off. All right, well, I'll just use 2 of my Lay on Hands and be at full health. Instead of rolling that entire hit dice on a short rest, you can just heal yourself to 2 or 3 points. Alternatively, if your entire party has been poisoned and no one has any way to neutralize it, if you have enough points in your Lay on Hands, you can neutralize the party's poison. At second level, we see you begin your first level of spell casting. You also gain a fighting style, spell casting, and divine smite. For the fighting style, these are ways you can use to really begin to customize and hone in on what kind of paladin you want to make. The paladin has access to defense, dueling, great weapon fighting, and protection. I'm going to go over these pretty quickly because I believe we covered most of these when we talked about the fighter, Bishop.
That way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely did. Definitely
Okay.
did.
So, defense, if you're wearing armor, you get a +1 to your AC. Dueling, if you're wielding a melee weapon in one hand and no other weapons, you can get a +2 to your damage rolls with that weapon. So you can use that longsword and a shield and gain that benefit. Great weapon fighting. When you roll a 1 or 2 on a damage die for an attack made with a melee weapon you are wielding with 2 hands, you can reroll the dice, but must use the new roll. The weapon must have the 2-handed or versatile property for you to gain this benefit. I mean, this is going to be your great axes, your war hammers, your long swords, your great swords, and I believe the club as well, correct? Or great club.
The club
there is a great club, right?
Great club, yes.
Great club. And then protection, when you see a creature gets attacked and it's other than you and it's within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on the attack roll while using a shield. So if you're that frontline paladin fighter and just some reason, one of your spellcasters was either just in too close or you got rushed next to a spellcaster, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage on the attack against that fellow spellcaster next to you, hopefully stopping the attack from going through and keeping them alive. For spellcasting, we're not going to go too heavy into this. We've talked about it a lot with the other classes. At level 2, you gain the ability to cast spells. Your spellcasting ability modifier for the paladin is based off your charisma stat. So your spell save DC, as many others, it begins with a flat 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your charisma modifier. And then, of course, for your spell attack modifier, it is your proficiency bonus and your charisma modifier. So if you're going to be that paladin who is kind of banking on his spells to hit or hold, you're going to want to make sure you put your points properly into that charisma stat to beef up the potency of your spell casting. And then we come to the bread and butter of the paladin class. Quickly attained at level 2, when you hit a creature with a weapon melee attack, you can expend 1 spell slot to deal radiant damage to the target, in addition to the weapon's damage type. The extra damage is 2d8 for a first level spell slot, plus 1d8 for each spell slot higher than the first, to a maximum of 5d8. The damage increases by 1d8 if the target is an undead or fiend, to a maximum of 6d8. So this is where really the meme comes across for paladins, where you don't have spell slots. you have smite slots.
It's-
What is very amazing about this ability is that if you have looked at smite spells from other classes, they require a bonus action to cast, and you must cast them before you make an attack. With Divine Smite, you can choose to use this once you know the attack hits. So a lot of paladins will pretty much hold their spell slots until they get that natural 20, or if any other effect allows them to double their damage or crit, such as attacking an ally who is prone or incapacitated or grappled. These things can help them increase their chance to crit or increase their damage overall. At this point, okay, well, I rolled a natural 20 and I knew I hit. I'm going to use a 5th level spell slot to cast Divine Smite once you have that ability. And this is just really where the meme comes along. You get to look at the entire table and say, I need all the D8 you have.
Which generally isn't enough because nobody carries a D8.
No one carries enough D8s. That's why it's funny to say. But again, what makes this so powerful is that you don't have to say you're doing it until you know you hit. So if you miss, no spell slot spent, nothing lost. You hit, you need to take this out, you need to take this enemy down quickly. All right, smite them. Switching on to our 3rd level abilities, you gain Divine Health and Sacred Oath. It's also for the Paladin. The Oath is what's known as your subclass for the Paladin. That's kind of the terminology they're using for that. Divine Health. By 3rd level, the divine magic flowing through you makes you immune to disease, which is huge. A lot of very rapidly character-ending things begin with a simple text of disease. I believe Bishop knows of a few I'm talking about. You're muted.
Oh, sorry. I've never had to deal with disease before in my entire. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, okay, liar.
I've never used disease. I've never had diseases used on me. No.
And then, as we spoke about before, Sacred Oath, the subclass for your abilities. We're not going to go into these. Those are something you can deep dive yourself. We'll probably deep dive into these on a different down the line episodes. For now, we're going to move on to the 4th level, to where you gain your first ability score improvement. Again, real quick to recap that, you can either take 2 points to distribute as you see fit amongst your ability scores, or you can pick up a feature or shorten down to a feat to customize and enhance your character. At 5th level, we begin to see
As long as your DM allows that. You've got to make sure to always put in that as long as your DM allows feats. Some do not.
Your DM should always allow feats unless they're an awful DM, and I will die on this hill.
I will fight you on that hill.
You're more than welcome to fight me and lose. So anyways, at 5th level... At 5th level, we see, obviously, as you notice the trend here, your proficiency bonus increases, and you gain the extra attack feature. This is the only extra attack feature that the Paladin class gains. You only get 2 attacks per turn, I believe, correct? Looking down here real quick, make sure I'm not wrong. Yeah, 2 attacks per turn. And then here at 6th level is where you begin to see your first aura kick in. And this is what makes the Paladin a great support and frontline fighter class. Starting at 6th level, whenever you or a friendly creature within 10 feet of you must make a saving throw, the creature gains a bonus to the saving throw equal to your charisma modifier with a minimum bonus of 1. You must be conscious to grant this benefit. And then later on at 18th level, you see this range increase to 30 feet. So that's really great if you're a frontline paladin and let's say you're paired up, somebody else in that party is a frontline fighter, frontline barbarian, frontline cleric, and they have to make a saving throw. Well, great. Good job. Now that they're close to you, they get a plus whatever charisma modifier to that saving throw. And I've seen plenty of times so that plus 2 or 3 is enough to put them into success. Plenty of times I've seen people fail, or I've failed a roll by one. It's like, there's one more point. Well, there it is. And don't forget, you, the paladin, also gains the benefit of this.
We have a class clown who said, "Silly teacher, feet are for your boots."
All right, somebody time out KM How. So, anyways, I'm kidding.
Sorry, I had to adjust my chair.
No, you're good. How are you supposed to profess if you're not comfortable?
All right, let's do it.
At the 7th level, you get your Sacred Oath feature, or as you have seen, your subclass feature. As you've seen in the other classes, the subclasses have their own levels where they begin to increase in their power. At 8th, you gain the ability score improvement. At 9th, not a whole lot goes on here for paladins aside from increasing your spellcasting ability and your proficiency bonus.
I mean, you get 2 third-level spells at 9th. That's huge.
That's
Third
what I
level
said.
for paladins is where it gets big. I know. I'm just saying. Look,
Just throwing it
it
out
gets
there,
big
man.
for paladins. I'm just throwing it out
That
there.
is
You
big
know,
for paladins. That's a huge smite spell or smite slot. And you get 2 of them. Man, that's 2 swings. That's a whole turn.
that's 2 swings right there.
At 10th level, your aura increases in strength, and starting at 10th level, you and a friendly creatures within 10 feet of you cannot be frightened while you are conscious. This is huge, and this is something to take extreme note of. And the paladin is really probably one of those classes to where you do need to be a little more conscious of what's going on around you in combat. I'm not saying you always need to be aloof or hyper focused, but with a paladin and these auras, it's remembering your role and remembering that you may be a frontline fighter all day long. You're more than welcome to play that role, but you have these passive auras for you and your allies. So make sure that they are being, presented. The DM's not always going to remember that. The DM's not always going to know. There's a million monsters, hit points, abilities running through that DM's head. Just give them the gracious reminder, excuse me, DM, they're within 10 feet of me. They cannot be frightened. DM say, "Oh, right, thanks." Well, skill check succeeds. You try to you feel the fear come upon you, but it's brushed away. We move on. And
Hold on. So you're saying the DM doesn't have to remember every single little nuance about the game?
the DM does not have to remember every single little nuance about the game. That's the reason we have books, to reference them. You don't have to be a machine of knowledge. You don't have to call up page 62, line 5, it says. No. Don't be afraid. DMs and players. I'm going to go on a caveat here. Do not be afraid. Where's my soapbox? Let me get up on this thing. Don't be afraid to be like, hang on, I think I read something different. Do you mind if I research it real quick? Anybody that is at least a shred of decent human being is going to be like, yeah, absolutely. Let me help you find it. What do you think you read? What do you think you remember? So DMs, if you got a player that says, hey, I think that's wrong, don't get offended by it. You're human. Maybe you forgot a little mechanic, or maybe they just didn't read something properly. Either way, whether for the DM or for the player, it's a chance to learn and a chance to remember something better about this game. And that's what I'll say about that. I'll get off of that soapbox and move on.
You sure? I mean, we can stay on the soapbox.
Don't tempt me. For the aura of courage. For the aura of courage. Oof. Big oof. For the aura of courage, much like the other aura, at a higher level, you see this range increase. So at 18th level, the range of this aura increases to 30 feet. At 11th level, you see an increased feature, and you would have seen something similar to this if you took the time to deep dive into some of the cleric subclasses. They get a bit of extra damage at this level as well. So this is where that kind of cleric half hybrid is coming into the paladin class. At 11th level, you are so suffused with righteous might that all your melee weapon strikes carry divine power with them. Whenever you hit a creature with a melee weapon, the creature takes an extra 1d8 radiant damage. It's very important to remember that. This is with a melee weapon. So this is another thing that really, you don't have to play a melee paladin. Unfortunately, as it is written in this book, the biggest benefits come from using a melee weapon. Now, you may have a DM that is perfectly okay with you using this with ranged weapons. Personally, off the cuff, I don't see too big of an issue with it. I may tweak a few things if it was at my table, but generally shouldn't be a huge problem if you want to play like a dex-based ranged paladin. Don't be afraid to at least ask. But again, as written, the paladin gets its biggest bonuses from being a melee frontline fighter. Pushing on the 12th level, you get your ability score improvement. At 13th level, not a lot happens here aside from you gain your first 4th level spell slot. At 14th level, you receive Cleansing Touch. Beginning at 14th level, you can use your action to end one spell on yourself or one willing creature that you touch.
That's so big.
That's huge, yeah. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your charisma modifier, minimum of once. You regain expended uses when you finish a long rest. If you've probably seen a theme here by now, the Paladin is not really a short rest recharge class. They definitely need to have that long rest. So it's definitely in the mind of a Paladin, okay, I'm just waking up. If I use anything in the morning for combat, and something happens later in the evening, I'm not going to have that ability. So I'm not saying always hoard and ration your abilities, but I'm saying remember that, okay, we're getting into a fight. What time of day is it? And how likely is it we're going to get another fight? Be aware of these things as you play these characters and classes that don't really get a lot of short rest recharges. And yeah, what Bishop said, this is a huge ability. To end a spell on yourself or one willing creature is massive, such as Charm, Suggestion, Hold Person, Dominate Person. Your party member's acting weird and in game you don't know why. Let me just use a quick Cleansing Touch, see if they come back to their senses.
Yeah.
Huge one
Polymorph.
here. Polymorph, Modify Memory.
What's the one that makes you just non-intelligent, makes you a feral creature?
Feeble Mind.
Feeble Mind.
Yep.
It would end
Or
Enfeeblement.
Enfeeblement, right?
There you go. Yes. That's a huge ability to be able to just say, no, thank you.
No, that spell you're under, that 9th level spell, yeah, not anymore. At 15th level, you gain your, I believe this is the capstone. No, there's one at 20th. So this is your next to capstone ability. So this one's pretty powerful for your subclass. At 16th, your ASI. At 17th level, not a lot going on here as far as straight ability wide, but this is where you pick up your first 5th level spell slot as a paladin. And there are a lot of great 5th level paladin spells aside from using them to just smite. At 18th level, both of your auras increase to that 30-foot range, correct?
Yep.
It was 30, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the aura improvement to 30.
At 19th, you see your final ability score improvement. And then here at the 20th level, you get your Capstone Sacred Oath feature. So whatever the most powerful tier for your subclass is, hits at 20th level, which makes the Paladin a bit unique on their own because most other classes have a singular, this happens to everything that's just this class, such as the Fighter or the Barbarian. As a Barbarian, you reach 20th level, you get infinite uses of Rage. The Druid, you reach 20th level, you get infinite uses of Wild Shape. For the Paladin, it really depends on what oath or subclass you took, and they all have differences in their uses to how you want to play a character. That's everything I'm thinking for paladins. Final thoughts, Mr. Bishop?
Uh, so for me, the paladins are a fun and tricky class. They have changed in small ways from edition to edition.
Yeah.
Um,
There was a time long, long ago that if you were a paladin, you had to be
lawfully
lawful
good.
good.
And in some ways, I think I'm saddened to see that go away. Um, there is just some part of what they are that I believe should stay. But I love the class. They are definitely for me an upfront. If you're looking to do some damage, take a paladin.
Yeah.
Um, also, I love seeing them as utility. I love seeing them play the mid-range, what I like to call the anti-mage warrior, where they just stand in between your casters and your actual damage dealers, and just make sure, hey, you know what? Looks like they're getting hurt a little bit. Heal the mage. You know, they're under some spell. I'll stop it. I'll make sure that you can make your saves, and I'll just stand here and make sure that if anything gets too close to my squishy characters, I'm there to stop it.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, I could definitely see your point of view, but I personally can never play that character. If I'm playing a paladin, I am in full plate. I am sword and board. I am frontline, just taking certain features to lock down enemies, and I'm taking all the aggression. I'm taking all the aggro. Especially when a lot of tables use a home rule to where if you use your lay on hands on yourself, it's just a bonus action. I've definitely seen that at a lot of tables, and I really like it a lot just because it helps you stay in the fight longer without having to be a barbarian. At a certain point, things are just going to keep hitting you, and it sucks
Yep.
because it's just a roll of the dice. There just may be a night where your DM is just rolling hot, and he's just hitting 18s, 18, 17, 18, natural 20, natural 20. You need a way to keep yourself up, and being able to do that, I personally feel it's not too game breaking. Some DMs will probably disagree with me, but for me, I feel okay with it. It's a bonus action, still not a free action. I definitely see a paladin as either, honestly, again, to what I deem as those frontline races. One of two, either a Goliath or a half orc, just so you can have that ability to bring yourself back up should you take a little too much damage too fast.
I can see that for sure. For me, the paladin, there's always one race that is a paladin through and through, and that's the dragonborn. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah,
just
I could definitely see
seeing the
that.
lizard in the straight plate of Bahamut.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it fits.
Well, that's it for the paladin, I believe. We can move on to ranger. I know Bishop has just been dying to claw at this one.
Uh, all right, so the ranger. Let me preface. Let me put an asterisk. And this will be the first class that I put a big asterisk by. And that is because the Ranger itself went under a huge, and I mean massive
Massive.
transformation with the introduction of the Tasha's book, the
Oh
Tasha's
yeah.
Cauldron of Everything book.
Yep.
So, a lot of the information that we will be talking about here for the Ranger is going to become optional and is now considered optional.
Mm-hmm.
So I am going to go over the information as it pertains to the player handbook, but realize a lot of this stuff for the Ranger is now an option. It's no longer a mandate. So let's go ahead and get into this here. So for the Ranger, we're going to go over the basic class information and then we'll go over their table. So for the Ranger, your hit dice is that 1d10. So you do start off with that 1d10 hit points. Your proficiency for equipment, your armors are going to be light, medium armor, and shields. So you're not going to be heavy armored, but you do get that medium. You do have weapons proficiencies in both simple and martial weapons. You don't have any tool proficiencies, but your saving throws you do get are strength and dexterity. You then do also get skills that you get to choose 3 from, which is animal handling, athletics, insight, investigation, nature, perception, stealth, and survival. So, just from that information alone, what you should automatically take from the ranger is that this character is all about the thought and the looking and the tracking. Your ranger is always going to be looking for something. They should always have their eye on something. They should always be either looking for enemies, researching enemies, looking for stuff to hunt, hunting something. Um, those are your eyesights. So let's go over the table here for 'em. As with the paladin, the ranger is also a half caster, so it only gets up to 5th level spells. So we'll go over some of that. So beginning at 1st level, you do get that +2 proficiency bonus. You also get favored enemy and natural explorer. So your favorite enemy is beginning at 1st level. You have a significant experience studying, tracking, hunting, and even talking to certain types of enemies. You get to choose a type of favorite enemy from aberrations, beasts, celestials, constructs, dragons, elemental, fae, fiends, giants, monstrosities, oozes, plants, or undead. That is such a big list.
That's a
Or you can
lot.
select 2 races of humanoids.
But wait, there's more.
Oh yeah. You have advantage on wisdom survival check. So on a survival check, you have advantage to track your favored enemy, as well as on intelligence checks to recall information about them. So again, this is all about the knowing your enemy. When you gain this feature, you also learn one language of your choice that is spoken by your favorite enemy, if they speak one at all. You can choose one additional favorite enemy as well as an associated language at 6th and 14th level. As you gain levels, your choice should reflect the types of monsters you have encountered on your adventure. Now, this last sentence is why I read through the entire thing. If you are going to play a ranger before your campaign starts, talk to your DM, find out what type of enemies you should be looking to encounter, and let them know I am looking to play a ranger, so I know what kind of enemies to be looking for. Because the last thing you want to do is decide that your enemies are krakens and sea monsters, and your entire campaign takes place in the desert or on top of a mountain. Because then your one of your whole keystone abilities is worthless. So the second part is that you get natural explorer, excuse me. You are particularly familiar with one type of natural environment and are adept at traveling and surviving in such regions. You choose one type of terrain, such as Arctic, coastal, desert, forest, grassland, mountain, swamp, or underdark. When you make intelligence or wisdom checks related to your favored terrain, your proficiency bonus is doubled if you are using a skill that you are proficient in. So, this is nice for when you are in your favored land. When you're in the woods and you are at home in the woods, you really are at home in the woods. If it's the Underdark, if it's cities, if it's swamps, whatever it is, when you get into your element as a ranger, you are in your element. Here's the fun part of this. While traveling for an hour or more in your favorite terrain, you gain the following benefits. Difficult terrain doesn't slow your group's travel. That's huge. Your group can't become lost except by magical means. Again, huge.
Huge.
Even when you are engaged in another activity while traveling, you remain alert to danger, which means you cannot be snuck up on in your favorite terrain. If you are traveling alone, you can move stealthily at a normal pace. So no
Ooh,
reduced movement speed for stealthing. That's big.
that's pretty
When you're
huge as well. Yeah.
Yeah. When you forage, you find twice as much food as you normally would. That's big. Most people have to go to a background for something that helps that big. This, you're just able to go out and hunt because this is where you live.
Mhm.
While tracking another creature, you also learn their exact number, their size, and how long ago they passed through the area. So again, the ability to track. You choose additional favorite terrains at 6th and 10th level. So just off the bat, at first level, as a ranger, you have the ability to make life just a little bit easier for your party. Again, there is some pre-homework to be done though. You need to talk to your DM about what type of campaign they're running, where the campaign setting is going to be, how it ties into your character. Because again, you don't want to be the Triton undersea depth ranger whose whole life is underwater and they only know underwater. And now you're on top of a volcano, 30,000 feet in the air, and none of your abilities are assisting you in any way.
Yep. Not
It's just,
fun.
you don't want to be there.
You're gonna have what they say, a bad time.
A very bad time. All right, so let's get into our second level. So, at our second level, we get a fighting style and we also get spell casting. So, again, this is a half caster martial class. So for our rangers, they do get a couple of options for fighting style. They get archery, which you gain a +2 bonus to your attack rolls when you make a ranged attack. When you make with ranged weapons. Defense, when you're wearing armor, you gain a +1 bonus to your AC. Dueling, when you are wielding a melee weapon in one hand and no other weapons, you gain a +2 bonus to damage rolls with that weapon. So again, dueling, you can wear a shield with that.
Mhm.
And then two weapon fighting. When you're using two weapons, you can add your ability modifier to the damage of the second attack. That is a big one. If you are choosing to be just straight up damage as a ranger, two weapon fighting is definitely huge. So is archery.
Yep.
All right. And then spell casting. You do get to cast spells. Now, for spell casting as a ranger, your spell casting is based on your wisdom. So your wisdom modifier is going to be huge. So your spell casting, your spell saves is 8 plus your proficiency plus your wisdom, and your spell attack is your proficiency plus your wisdom modifiers.
Yep.
All right. So going up to our range up to third level, we now get our archetype. So this is your subclass as well as primeval awareness. So we're going to go over primeval awareness because we're not doing the subclasses right now. So beginning at third level, you can use your action and expend one ranger spell slot to focus your awareness on the region around you. For 1 minute per level of the spell slot you expend, you can sense whether the following types of creatures are present within 1 mile of you, or within up to 6 miles if you are in your favorite terrain. And these are aberrations, celestials, dragons, elementals, fae, fiends, and undead. It doesn't reveal their location or number. It just lets you know, hey, there are these kinds of creatures that are here. This is huge. This
Yep.
I have seen make a DM rewrite their entire campaign. This ability alone. So this is a huge one for you. Now
Especially within
again,
a mile. That's huge in D&D. Like you in modern day, like, oh, it's a mile, whatever. You need to remember, D&D doesn't have mass fast travel. A lot of things are still done by foot and horse and carriage. So
yep.
to be able to sense out to a mile is a large piece of land.
And then you get up to 6 if you're in your favorite terrain.
Yeah, up to
That's huge.
6. Yeah.
All right. So let's get back to our table here. So at fourth level, you do get your first ASI or your first feat. At fifth level, because you are a martial class, you do gain that extra attack. Your proficiency bonus does go up to +3. So then at sixth level, you do get favored enemy and natural explorer. So these are going to be your improvements for your favorite enemy and natural explorer. Seventh level, you do get your archetype feature. At eighth level, you get another ASI or feat, and you also get land stride. So land stride, starting at eighth level, moving through non-magical difficult terrain costs you no extra movement. So what this means is you don't have to worry about difficult terrain anymore. You are not hindered unless it is magical. Unless
Mhm.
somebody is throwing out thorns or spiked growth or something that is forcing that difficult terrain. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You can also pass through non-magical plants without being slowed by them and without taking damage from them if they have thorns, spines, or similar hazard. In addition, you have advantage on saving throws against plants that are magically created or manipulated to impede movement, such as those created by the Entangle spell.
That's massive.
This
That's
is
big.
very big. This shuts down a lot of low-level
I
druids.
mean, I've been DMing for, 3, 4 years now, and you still just get surprised when you take the minute to stand back and deep dive into a class like this. Even we're not really deep diving, we're really just skimming the surface. But
Yeah.
God, that's huge.
It's you know what, I will say, it is very re-revealing doing this
Yeah.
because there are a lot of abilities that you don't think about in the moment as a player and as a DM
Hmm.
that you have. Because I can't remember the last time I had a hunter say, "Hey, you know what? I have land stride, so entangle doesn't matter to me."
Yeah.
So this is just a good refresher. Even if you know your class, you may have forgotten some of the minute details of some of these just base abilities.
Especially because they may not come up a lot. Because
Exactly.
you forget it once, well, you forget the second time, third time.
For sure. All right. So that's land stride. At ninth level, you do get the proficiency bonus increase, as well as you are working now with third level spells at ninth level. At 10th level, you do gain natural explorer improvement, and then you do get hide in plain sight, which if you're playing a ranger and you make it that far, that is your bread and butter.
Mhm.
So to go over what hide in plain sight is, starting at 10th level, you can spend 1 minute creating camouflage for yourself. You must have access to fresh mud, dirt, plants, soot, and or other naturally occurring material with which you create your camouflage. Once you are camouflaged this way, you can try and hide by pressing yourself up against a solid surface, such as a tree or wall. And you gain a plus 10 bonus to dexterity stealth checks as long as you remain there without moving or taking actions. Once you
Ooh.
move or take an action or a reaction, you must camouflage yourself again to gain this benefit. So,
Oh, man.
this ability here is very, very useful. This allows your ranger to get somewhere, set up the trap, set up your plan, and know that your ranger will be there.
Yeah.
Or if you're being stalked, give your ranger a chance to out hide whoever's stalking them. It's a huge ability.
Especially if you double that with certain spells, such as Pass Out of Trace.
Pass without a trace,
That's plus 20.
any kind of movement spells, dimension door, misty step. You can get around a corner, you take the minute to create your camouflage, and you're gone.
Gone. Whoever was following you, that big, bad, evil dragon or ogre, if you got the time to hide yourself, they're not going to find you.
There you go. All right. So that's hide in plain sight. At 11th level, you're getting another archetype feature. Now, with rangers, there are huge archetypes. That
Yeah.
real like Ranger may be the most differentiating class by its subclass, I think, besides maybe the fighter, and that's just because fighters their subclass really is what they are. Rangers second that, I really truly believe. Um, so that's 11th level. 12th level, you get another ASI or feat. 13th level, we get the proficiency bonus increased to +5, and we're now working with our 4th level spells. 14th, you're getting favorite enemy improvement and vanish. So vanish, it's starting at 14th level. You can use the hide action as a bonus action on your turn. Also, you can't be tracked by non-magical means unless you choose to leave a trail. This is huge again.
big.
You don't leave a trail
Because all of a
whatsoever.
sudden, that party of 6 went to a party of 5, and now the enemy could be like, wait a minute, why is there only 5?
Exactly. And you don't have to think about it. That's the best part, is
It
that
just
you have to
happens.
think about when you want to leave a trail.
Mm-hmm.
So that is huge. Also, the fact that you're taking something that was an action and making it a bonus action is very big. May not seem like a lot, but the ability to do that is huge. Vanish is very, very good. All right. At 15th level, we're getting our archetype feature once again. And that is our capstone ability for the subclass. That is your last archetype feature.
Yeah.
So Rangers, you hit that pretty quickly. Uh, at 16th level, we get another ASI. At 17th level, we change our proficiency bonus to a 6. So we're getting that improvement there. And we also finally get into our 5th level spell slots. All right. All right. So then we'll go on to 18th level. You get Feral Senses, which is pretty big. So Feral Senses at 18th level, you gain uh pre I'm not even gonna try. Preternatural senses that help you fight creatures you can't see. When you attack a creature you can't see, your inability to see does not impose disadvantage on your attack rolls against it. You are also aware of the location of any invisible creature within 30 feet of you, provided that creature isn't hidden from you and you aren't blinded or deafened. So,
Huge.
this is very, very big.
Rangers get a lot of big things. Never
They
even
do.
really realized it because I don't play high level Ranger. I never really seen one yet.
You know, it's funny you don't see them, and what's really funny is that you never see a ranger follow this. I've never seen a ranger play the eyes of the group. They are always tracking something or always in the background doing something. I've never seen a ranger take that up front and be the eyes and face of a group and really just be the one that scans and does the true scouting. I've seen them do the tracking and the hunting in the wild, but never just boom. Which is amazing because that's like 90% of their natural ability.
Yeah.
Right. So that's 18th level. 19th level, you get your final ASI. You're finally at your big boy stage. And then 20th level, you get Foe Slayer. At 20th level, you become an unparalleled hunter of your enemies. Once on each of your turns, you can add your wisdom modifier to the attack roll or the damage roll of an attack you make against one of your favored enemies. You can choose to use this feature before or after the roll, but before any effects of the roll are applied.
Hmm.
So, at 20th level, hunters, you get your own smite.
Yeah.
And it's once per turn. This
And if
is
you're rocking that high wisdom, that's an easy, 4 to 5, just flat. I don't have to roll it damage. It just happens.
and what's great is that, you know what? If you think, "Oh, you know what? I may be close to hitting," I'm gonna Foe Slayer that one because it's either to the damage or to the attack. So this is a
Yeah.
huge ability. The Ranger is a great class. It used to be on the weaker side. I will completely admit that. In the PHB, the Hunter or the Ranger, I'm sorry, I keep calling them hunters. The Ranger is a good mid-tier class as it was in the player handbook. I will say Tasha has completely brought the Ranger up for me as far as my viewings. The Ranger is now up there with one of the more damage dealing classes. But what do you think? Let's get some final thoughts on the ranger from you first, and then I'll give mine.
For me, a lot of people look at a ranger and they think, oh, longbow, added distance. Yeah, they can excel at that, but I've seen some really good builds come from that dual wielding ranger, or even that sword and border ranger. Don't think that just because you're supposed to be of the land that you got to be this essentially like Legolas elf kind of creature. No, you can be that sheer protector of the land. Whether you choose to be of the mountains or the forest, the grassland, the desert, the sea, you can choose as a ranger. You pick to be that defender of the land. So you can absolutely grab that sword and shield, that great sword. That's two long swords, two short swords, and go up there and take the business to the enemies.
For sure.
So yeah, especially when it comes to the actual like hunter subclass, which I'm not going to dive into, but man, they got some great stuff.
Oh yeah,
Or
Hunter
wait,
is
is it Monster Slayer? I forget which one it is.
Hunter's a big one. Monster Slayer's a big one. Horizon Walker is amazing.
It was Hunter or I forget which one it was. He was Hunter or Monster Slayer, but he went to town on enemies with he was a ranger that used a spear, and just he went to town. It was great.
Unique. What about class race combinations for you?
Ooh. Depends which one I would play. If I want to play that ranged ranger, I want to go with an elf so I can get the elven accuracy. I'm going to use some class of elf to get elven accuracy. If I'm going to play a hardier upfront creature, I would diverge it into two subtypes for that. If do I want to be small and sneaky, gnome, halfling, absolutely, why not? If I want to be that imposing figure, again, I default to the larger races, the Goliath or half-orc, the mindset of being a protector of the grassland, just that all beef, no filler, sword, shield. You want to come tear down my forest? You must go through me. P.S. Good luck.
There you go. There you go. For me, like I
What about
said,
you, bud?
The Ranger, I enjoyed pre-Tasha's, post-Tasha's. I absolutely love. I love some of the optional abilities that have come out pre. It was still a great class. I love the Beastmaster subclass itself. For me, Rangers, I love Rangers that really take in the opposite of the Elven bow. I understand it and I appreciate the Legolas style or the Elven archer. I really do. I appreciate it because when they are there, you are very happy they are there, as was proved Wednesday night.
Yeah.
When, as a reaction, our Elven Ranger killed an enemy as their reaction.
Yeah.
Just one hit wiped them
holding it
out.
is perfectly okay to hold an attack until you see an enemy. That is okay.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just might roll a natural 20.
Yeah. And
And
she
it's gonna
wiped
be
them out.
amazing.
So yeah, no, I will never love that, but I do love the idea and I do love the rangers that are city rangers that they're used to hunting in their city and they're urban trackers. Uh I mentioned before I now have a character that I just created that is a hunter or that is a ranger that's a beastmaster, and instead of using bows, he throws his triton. He is a triton that uses his triton to throw it because it has the thrown
Yep.
category. And so he throws it, bamps to it, pulls it out, strikes again, and then runs away on the back of his crocodile and goes right back to it again. So, you know, Rangers are a fun class. They get a little bit of that spell casting. So don't be afraid to throw out a heal there to your allies. Don't forget your big damage. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's always the joke of every hunter forgets its most important ability, which is Hunter's Mark.
Hunter's Mark. Hunter's Mark, Hunter. Especially the extra attack. Oh my gosh. Also, great roleplay feature with Hunter's Mark I've seen before, to where if you're in that urban environment and you're trying to track a high value target, but you can't get close, I'll tell you right now, there is nowhere in the book to where the spell says the target knows it's been affected by Hunter's Mark. Targets have no idea they've been Hunter's Marked. You cast at high enough level, you're not losing that guy for 24 hours. FYI, if you need a good bad guy, make him a ranger.
Ranger's also one of the few subclasses, or one of the few classes that I will say, if you're looking for a multi-class, pull the Ranger. It's one of those rare. It's one of the rare classes where I will say, as soon as you're thinking multi-class, this is one of the classes that you should be thinking. But that is the Ranger. As far as class race combinations, the Gnome Ranger is always great. The Yanti Ranger is one that I really love. I love a creature that is of the land and then also able to be a part of it. So I absolutely love them. But let's go on to the one that I know you want to talk about the most.
What do you mean?
I will be keeping my mouth shut for this next segment.
You are more
As
than welcome to chime in at any times. I
oh
interrupted your entire
god,
thing. You kidding me?
no, I will not. There's I so I will. This is DM Bishop saying this. As a DM and as a player, I have playing experience a rogue for a grand total of about 12 minutes. That is the
I
length and extent of time I've spent playing as a rogue.
My very first D&D character was a fighter rogue combo. And
So
I enjoy the rogue greatly because I'll speak in the aftermath. Let's get through the class.
let's get
I
into the
could talk
rogue.
forever about being a rogue or a bard, and I'll tell you why after we get done with this. But moving into the rogue, you're going to see some fun things on the table here. Most notably, that's outside of the usual that you've seen here, is the sneak attack column. That will become very prudent and important as we move on with this. But quick basis overlay of the class. Okay, I want to make a rogue. Well, all right. Just thinking about it, let's look at what you get at level 1. So we'll start with class features. Your hit dice is a D8. So you're kind of hardy. Martial class. You can take a hit here or there, but you're not really known for your hardiness. Your hit points obviously are the 8 plus your con modifier at level 1. Moving forward, it's 1d8 plus your con modifier for every level of rogue. And it's very important. I don't know if we point this out yet or not. Should you decide the multi-class, whatever level you take that multi-class in, you need to abide by that level's hit dice. So for example, if I take a rogue and I move into cleric, fighter, paladin, my hit dice for that level in that multi-class is that D10. Proficiencies. You have proficiency with light armor. Your weapons are simple weapons, hand crossbows, long swords, rapiers, and short swords. A lot of the lighter, quick to use weapons for this class. For tools, you get the trademark Thieves tools. This is used for picking locks, picking traps, or even I've seen them used to construct locks and traps. Now, some of that may fall into more maybe smith tools for some DMs. I know that it really depends upon, are you making the part from scratch or are you just assembling a new trap from pre-made parts? Doing that, most DMs will probably call for a Thieves tool check to reassemble a trap or lock from parts already made. For your saving throws, you have dexterity and intelligence. Then for your skills, you choose 4 from the following: acrobatics, athletics, deception, insight, intimidation, investigation, perception, performance, persuasion, sleight of hand, and stealth. That is a large, vast thing to pick from. And the reason for that is to really give the rogue what I call specialized versatility. You are given a large set of skills to choose from, and you choose 4 of them to be good at. So if you want to make that rogue that's very sneaky and just generic, stereotypical rogue that sneaks around, picks traps, okay, well, you're going to want to take sleight of hand, stealth, probably acrobatics to dodge around traps, and then let's say investigation as well to spot the trap or spot the lock, things like that. If you want to play a rogue who's more about kind of playing things off or lying and being intimidating, then you would go with your deceit, intimidation, performance to play off a role, or to maybe you act as a juggler when really you're picking pockets. Well, performance. For equipment, you start with a rapier or a short sword. You have a short sword and a quiver of 20 arrows, or a short sword. You choose between those two in that line. For your packs, you have a burglar's pack, a dungeoneer's pack, or an explorer's pack. And then you start with leather armor, 2 daggers, and thieves' tools. And that is everything you get for just choosing to be a rogue.
Which is 9,000% way too much. No.
It's
You
a
get
lot.
a lot.
You get a
You
lot.
get a lot.
You get a lot.
Rogues are scary, man.
They are. And at level 1, you begin with expertise, which means of those 4 things you picked, 2 of those things you are really good at. Now, you must be proficient in something to take expertise, correct? Yeah, thought so.
Yes.
So at first level, choose 2 of your skill proficiencies or 1 of your skill proficiencies and your proficiency with thieves' tools. Proficiency bonus is doubled for an ability check you make that uses either of the chosen proficiencies. At 6th level, you can choose 2 more in skills or with thieves' tools to gain this benefit. That's 4 expertise by level 6. Strong. Very powerful for roleplay and out of combat things, and maybe some in combat things too. You get close to the enemy and you know you need to pilfer a parchment or a key off of them. Who says you got to kill them? Maybe they're too strong. Get in quick, stab them, grab the keys, and get out. Beginning at first level, you get the rogue feature ability, which is the sneak attack. Beginning at first level, you know how to strike subtly and exploit a foe's distraction. Once per turn, you can deal an extra 1d6 damage to the creature you hit with an attack if you have advantage on the attack roll. The attack must use a finesse or a ranged weapon. You do not need advantage on the attack roll if another enemy of the target is within 5 feet of it. That enemy isn't incapacitated and you don't have disadvantage on the attack roll. I'm going to break up right there real quick and note the wording given. You do not need advantage on the attack roll if another enemy of the target is within 5 feet of it, and that enemy isn't incapacitated. So if there's let's say a prison fight, and you trying to take down the warden, well, the guys attacking the warden may not be your allies. They may be your enemies, but they're also his enemies. So that you get sneak attack.
As long as you don't have disadvantage on the attack.
As long as you don't have disadvantage on the attack roll. Correct. Thank you, Bishop. The amount of extra damage increases you gain levels in this class, as shown in the sneak attack column of the rogue table. Go back to that real quick. You will see here the sneak attack column begins at 1d6, and by the time you get to 19th level, it will max out at 10d6. That's a lot of damage. Move on to Thieves' Cant real quick. During your rogue training, you learned Thieves' Cant, a secret mix of dialect, jargon, and code that allows you to hide messages in seemingly normal conversation. Only another creature that knows Thieves' Cant understands such messages. It takes 4 times longer to convey such a message than it does to speak the same idea plainly. In addition, you understand a set secret signs and symbols used to convey short, simple messages as to whether an area is dangerous or the territory of a thieves guild, whether loot is nearby or whether the people in an area are easy marks or will provide a safe house for thieves on the run. A great way to go about this would be if you were coming up to a conversation to a couple people in a bar, and let's say your DM had you roll a perception check, and you were not a rogue and you were not trained to listen for thieves' cant, but you rolled a high enough perception, your DM could describe something like this. Bishop, as you walk up to the bar to order a drink, you notice that the couple of individuals near you are having this lengthy conversation about the finer points of baking apple pies.
Okay.
And that's really easy enough. Now, if you were a trained rogue, then it could go something like this. All right, Bishop, you walk up to the bar counter. As you order your drink, you notice the individuals next to you are having a heated discussion about the finer points of apple pie. Picking up on this a little further, you realize they're talking about particular poisons being sold and moved throughout the city at certain safe houses.
Now you have my attention, sir.
Now I have your attention. And that's just a great way to put it. It could be, here's a great one. If you are fans of the anime Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and the way that you would see alchemists in that show hide their alchemy designs within books, such as the recipe book you saw from the one main character. And they had to decode it and go through a lot of work to get to that simple alchemical design. That's a great way to really understand thieves' cant in what hopefully is a mostly moderately known thing. Bishop, anything you can think of a little more popular?
So it's not popular, but
Okay.
it's something that I'm interested in.
Okay.
So, hobo language, like
Okay.
actual hobo signaling and like symbolism and using to mark houses for like, hey, this is what's good, this is who lives here. You can find work for food here. Um, so that's where I pull Thieves' Cant from, is it's quick, subtle messaging, or things like the Cockney rhyming scheme. For those who would know British language, such as bees and money means, bees and honey means money. Um, things like that, using of different words to mean different things. So, uh, those are just some kinds of ideas if you're looking for ideas for Thieves' Cant.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Is it Thieves' Cant or Thieves' Cant?
I always called it thieves' cant.
I've gone back and forth.
You
So.
going back and forth? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and make a ruling on it. It's just, to me, it's thieves' cant. Whatever. Getting
All
into
right.
second level, you begin to see for another great key rogue ability known as Cunning Action. Starting at second level, your quick thinking and agility allow you to move and act quickly. You can take a bonus action on each of your turns in combat. This action can be used only to take the dash, disengage, or hide action. These, again, a lot of pretty powerful stuff at this lowered end deal here. Not a lot of commitment needed. And this is why rogues probably are the most multi-classed into as what you would call the dip. You usually pick up a quick 2 or 3 levels and you get right back out. You go to your main class again. And that is because the first 3 levels are just that strong for a rogue. Especially with cunning action here. Being able to dash, disengage, or hide on a bonus action is pretty good. Definitely the hide action for the rogue is the bread and butter of 90% of a rogue's class on your action economy. You duck behind a wall to break line of sight, roll your stealth check. All right, I'm going to come back out. Now you have advantage so long as you have beaten the enemy's perception check. Or the ability to get up to an enemy that you can't hide from. Let's say you're in an open grass field, but you got to fight the enemy. Okay, well, I got to stab him, so I don't feel like throwing my dagger and losing it. So you run up to him, shank him, and then your bonus action, you disengage to where he can't take an attack against you when you move away. At third level, you see your roguish archetype or as you've seen with the Ranger archetype and other things, this is what this class uses as their verbiage for the subclass. 4th level, and also quick to mention here, 3rd level is where you see that increase. 3rd and 4th, you get your 2d6 for sneak attack. 4th level, you have your ability score improvement. At 5th level, you see an increase again between your 5th and 6th. For 5th level, you gain uncanny dodge. Starting at 5th level, what was that?
This is where rogues start to make me angry.
Starting at 5th level, when an attacker that you can see hits you with an attack, you can use your reaction to have the attack's damage against you. A lot of general wording here left for a lot of open interpretation. So we'll take a quick moment to kind of break this down. So when an attacker you can see, so you got your character has to be able to see where the attack is coming from, and they need to hit you with an attack. That's any source of damage. That could be a melee attack, a weapon attack, a spell attack, and that spell attack could be a 2-hit or a saving throw. Doesn't matter. As long as it is a physical attack you can see happening, such as fireball. Correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Now
that is how I roll it.
yeah, and it gets a little weird when it comes to things like, okay, what if they're using like psychic damage? Well, you can't really see psychic damage coming. You know a spell's coming, but you're not sure what it is. So I would say for that, definitely open to DM interpretation. Use your best mental guidance here to make that call. Just know that once you make that call, don't be afraid to stick with it. Don't be afraid to change your mind. Just don't go back and forth constantly. Once you make a choice, weigh the options, stick with it. Or if you choose to switch back a different way, then really stick with it.
And you as a DM have that option of saying, hey, look, you know what? For this situation, I don't believe this works because X. But you as a
Yes.
player also have the option of saying, well, this is how I see it. Is this a good compromise?
Yeah. Don't be afraid to have a polite conversation,
Respectful
polite and
conversation.
respectful conversation with your DM. And DMs don't suddenly get flabbergasted if you're challenged. It's okay to be challenged. Be open and accepting of it. Now, I'm not saying get run over, let the players walk all over you. You still have the final say, but be open to how they may be perceiving things and how they're seeing it. Maybe the attack wasn't described well enough for them. Maybe they need to hear it again to understand. And that's okay. At 6th level, like we talked about, you get your second set of expertise. So now you have 4 under your belt. At 7th level, you see an increase to your sneak attack die, and you gain the evasion ability, which again, great stuff. Beginning at 7th level, you can nimbly dodge out of the way of certain area effects, such as a red dragon's fire breath or an ice storm spell. When you are subjugated to an effect that allows you to make a dexterity saving throw to take only half damage, you instead take no damage if you succeed on the saving throw and only half damage if you fail. This was definitely, I would see, as Wizards of the Coast implementation to help the rogue stay in the fight a little longer, because they don't get a ton of health. For most rogues, you're probably not going to spec heartedly into Constitution because you're not casting spells for the most part. So this was kind of their way to say, okay, let's play on the rogue's dexterity. Let's at least give them something to stay alive a little longer.
Now, the big key here is that it is dexterity saving throws.
Huge here.
You
Yeah.
cannot use evasion for any
For
damage.
anything. It needs to be under that wording of a dexterity saving throw. Moving on to 8th level, you see another ASI. At 9th, you see the increase to your sneak attack damage to that 5d6, and you gain your subclass feature. 10th, you see an ability score improvement. At 11th, just over halfway to 20, this is where you see the increase to 66 for sneak attack, and another, again, a very hardy trait for the rogue, reliable talent. By 11th level, you have refined your chosen skill until they approach perfection. Whenever you make an ability check that lets you add your proficiency bonus, you can treat a d20 of a roll 9 or lower as a 10. Meaning, for those skills that you have chosen proficiency or expertise in, you cannot roll below a 10. So just remember that. You have to be proficient or have expertise in that skill, and you've got that buffer. If you don't have proficiency in it, you don't have that buffer. What's also point to note here is if you have multi-classed or taken certain features to gain proficiencies in other non-rogue skills, this still applies. It's not limited to rogues skills that you chose from. At 12th level, you see your ability score improvement again. 13th, you have the increase to the 7d6, and you gain your roguish archetype feature.
That's so much damage.
It's a lot. It is. At 14th, you gain blind sense. You are able to hear. You are aware of the location of any hidden or invisible creature within 10 feet of you. What makes this so great is that it doesn't matter if it's behind total cover or not. If it's within 10 feet of you, if it's hidden or invisible, the rogue knows it's there. So this is kind of falls into line with some of the natural explorer features we saw and the Paladin's auras. It'll really be heavily along the player for you to remember at 14th level you have this ability. So if you're walking down a hallway that's a tight corridor, just say, hey, within 10 feet of me, do I know or do I hear anything that's any hidden or invisible creatures? And just giving that subtle reminder to your DM is a great way for the DM to say, oh yeah, that's right, I did put that there. And then that gives them a chance to put that element into your story so your rogue and you can feel rewarded for choosing to go 14 levels into a class. At 15th level, you see the increase to the 8d6 sneak attack damage, and you gain Slippery Mind, which is you have acquired greater mental strength. You gain proficiency in wisdom saving throws. So now you have 3 proficiencies in saving throws just for going straight 15 levels through the rogue class. You have intelligence, dexterity, and now wisdom. And these cover a lot of things like your charm person, your dominate person, your suggestions, I believe. That might be charisma. At 16th level, you see your another ability score improvements. I would have it on the screen because I'm paying attention to both screens. At 17th level, you increase to that 9d6 sneak attack for 17 and 18. You gain your final subclass feature. You gain elusive. At 18th level, you are so evasive that attackers rarely gain the upper hand against you. No attack roll has advantage against you while you aren't incapacitated.
Garbage.
Which is great. You can be prone, you can be grappled. It don't matter. As long as you are conscious, it's okay. 19th level, you push into the final 10d6 sneak attack damage, and you gain your last ability score improvement. And then your capstone feature, Stroke of Luck. At 20th level, you have an uncanny knack for succeeding when you need to. If your attack misses a target within range, and you can, excuse me, if your attack misses a target within range, you can turn the miss into a hit. Alternatively, you can fail if you fail an ability check, you can treat the d20 roll as a 20. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. And that is the rogue.
That's stroke of luck, man.
That's very good.
All right, so you want to talk about the rogue?
The reason I love the rogue so much actually is not because of the sneak attack. It's not because of the cunning action to be able to hide and things like that. It's because if I want to make a build that I'm going to use as a role play heavy build, I'm going to go one of two ways. I'm going to go bard or I'm going to go rogue. And it's for the sheer fact you get so many expertise and you can really hone down a character's skills. I had a blacksmith I was playing in another D&D game. I made him a blacksmith rogue, and I took a feature to get proficiency with smith tools, and then expertise with smith tools, expertise with thieves tools, and expertise in athletics. That was my 4. It's because he was a smith. He made weapons. To me, it made the most sense to go rogue because you get 4 proficiencies. Especially at those reliable talent levels, if I was making weapons, I was always going to make a quality weapon by 11th level because I couldn't fail. I may not make a great masterwork weapon, but I'm going to be able to pump out a living for my character. And that's why I really like rogues. It's not because they can be sneaky and creepy and hide around corners. It's not because they do have great abilities, don't get me wrong. But just for me as a player, I love them because of the expertise. I love them because you have the ability to really break away from the, oh, I've got to be an edgelord rogue and sneak through the castleway and assassin the king. Who cares? That's been done. I want to go make a character who has expertise in crazy things because that's the skill he chose. And to me, if you're going to go be good at something, you're going to be well trained at it. Sure, it comes with the cast off of, yeah, I also used to kill people a while ago, but I'm over that now.
Well, there you go.
Let me get a. There you go.
So class race combos for your rogue.
For the blacksmith, I went variant human for the feature at first level, but also to me, it makes sense again to go. Depends what I'm going to make. If I want to make the imposing, intimidating rogue, why wouldn't I make a nice, sturdy dragonborn or a half orc? Something that just looks physically imposing. You don't have to be a lithe, skinny creature to play a good rogue. Sometimes rogue are beefcakes that just also are really good at picking locks.
There you go.
Bishop, with your 12 seconds of expertise on a rogue.
So from
Now that you have listened to the deep dive of the main class, what do you got for us?
So I've made 2 rogues in my life, and I have the idea for a third, and this is the way that I want to build my rogue.
Okay.
So the first rogue that I have is a dragonborn rogue. He
Always
is
a solid choice.
Black dragonborn rogue. But he is the skinny, thin black dragonborn, wears no armor.
Of course.
And chooses to get locked up because he just loves spitting into the locks in the prison and breaking them down.
For a quick refresher there, Bishop, when we went over races, the Black Dragonborn was which breath type again?
Acid.
Correct. Acid. Gold sticky star for you.
Yep. So while he's in prison, he just licks the lock and just walks out.
Walks out. Nice.
The second one that I made was an Arakakra Artificer Rogue multi-class that I really liked. I went 3 rogue, I believe. Hold on, I can double check it right now. And that's because I haven't, again, I haven't really used the rogue, so I was being conservative in my usage.
Mm-hmm. For a
Here, so let me
current,
double.
while you're looking that up, I'll talk on my Monday night game. For a current game I play in person on Monday nights, I have a level 10 rogue mixed with 7 levels of Hexblade Warlock. And it is an absolute. I tell this build to people, and their face just goes, oh, ugh, awful. Ugh. Definitely, it's a disgusting fun build. I do 4 things really well. I just happen to make sure I'm always trying to do those 4 things.
So I went 16 levels artificer, 4 levels rogue.
Okay.
Um, and I specifically did it because of the subclass that I went for it. The subclass had a very good feature that I very much liked for this character.
Okay.
But this character is not a sneaky character in the traditional. It's going to slink down the hallways. He is a sniper, and he
Okay.
perches anywheres that he wants. Um, and then he really uses that extra dash action to be able to get wherever he needs to, line up his shot, perch, take his shot, and then get out.
Get out. Yeah. Okay.
So very, very fun character that I want to check out. But
Nice.
for me, the rogue, especially with the character with the abilities, the rogue that I want to play is the rogue that is aloof. They're not sneaking down the hallway. They are just so innately trained in their body that they almost like Mr. Magoo their way through and are just slightly dodging out of the way of the traps,
Is
not
that
really
like Lupin
paying
the
much
Third?
attention. Yeah, like Lupin or for those of you that watch fucking Cowboy Bebop,
Yeah.
Spike would
Yeah.
definitely for me just the way that he's very aloof, but he's still able to move. That is how I would play my rogue.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't like the sneaky thing. And as far as sneak attack, as long as they're still attacking something else, I get it.
Yep.
So
For my Monday night game, I lean into more of the being stealthy, being sneaky,
and there's
less
nothing wrong with that.
yeah, less down corridors and hallways and more it's a urban heavy sitting if you are familiar with this world where play out of the Waterdeep books.
Mhm.
A lot of fun.
No, I've heard
Definitely.
some stories about your game.
I don't know what you're talking about. I deny anything I've done.
That's fine.
It's not streamed, you can't prove it. So anyways.
But no, as far as class race combos for the rogue,
Oh yeah.
um,
What about you?
automatically human stands out. And not for the reason that everybody thinks. Human stands out for me for exactly that reason, is that there are a ton of humans out there. And so to just blend in as one of 100 million other humans
You're
that are on this
John Doe
place,
the Rogue.
just I'm just a human.
Yep.
Um, and then if I'm not doing that, because I do like the idea of being so far away, I really like the Arakakra. I really like one of the bird type classes that's able to fly, get up wherever it needs to be, and just snipe as that rogue. I think the ability to just be where I need to be and get that shot off is just amazing.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for today's episode, y'all. Wrapping up part 3 of the 3rd episode. With the next one, we will see the finishing of the classes out of the player's handbook, and then after a few days of editing the videos, you will see all of these go live on our YouTube page, Player Hater Gaming, as soon as we pretty much once we wrap up the next week's episode. Like I said, I'll probably have it up by next Friday. Give me a little time to edit it, make sure they look nice and clean, and they'll be ready to go for your viewing pleasure. We wanted to kind of hold on to these just because I want to make sure when they launched together, so you could, if you weren't interested in, say, let's maybe this episode had no value for you. You didn't want to learn about the Paladin, the Ranger, the Rogue, but you really want to learn about the Wizard. Well, unfortunately, it's the last in the list, so you would have had to wait even longer. So I figured, well, let's just do all at once. Outside of that,
That's the,
I hope you all had
that's the way to do
fun.
it.
I hope you learned something. I don't have any really closing announcements I want to hit on. I kind of hit on them earlier. Bishop, anything for you?
Yeah, if you are not here tomorrow night, then you are messing up your life very much so. Because you need to be here tomorrow night because tomorrow is the wild card game delivered to us by the sultry and silky voice of the man sitting right next to me here. As an amazing fucking DM, and I cannot give him enough props for the world and characters that he has created and built, and for the fact that he actually made me hate myself last week for the first time with this character. I took some time and had to go, I hate myself right now. So congratulations. But definitely look forward to Wednesday for the Wild Cards campaign, Fridays for the Temptations of Reldon, which you guys are getting into even more.
Oh, that is. Thank you for saying something. That gives me a quick reminder. This Sunday will be a little odd for our rebroadcast. We're going to do a double feature on the Temptation of Reldon to get it caught up this way. So this Sunday, you'll see a double feature of the episodes to get you up to date for the Sunday rewatch. And then moving forward, it will be the what we have pushed out as a standard for a 2 p.m. Sunday rewatch of the Wednesday night campaign and a 6 p.m. rewatch on Sundays of the Friday night campaign.
Yep. So get your listening ears in and check it all out, and then just come and hang out with us in the Discord. The Discord is growing. I'm loving the new faces that I'm seeing in it. I'm loving hanging out with everybody. So just come and hang out with us, and it will be so good.
Absolutely. Until next week here on the UniversiD&D, class is dismissed. We hope you learned something, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Good night, everybody.
Night. Have a good one.